thus his mother Mary and his earthly father Joseph brought him to the temple for the feast of the Passover. As they were returning home to Nazareth, Mary and Joseph missed him in the caravan of friends and relatives traveling together. They quickly turned back to Jerusalem to find him. There Jesus was in the temple, sitting in the midst of teachers, both listening to them and asking them questions. Mary asked him, "Son, why have you treated us this way? Joseph and I have been anxiously looking for you." Jesus replied, "Why are you looking for me? Did you not know that I need to be doing my Father's business?" They, of course, did not fully understand what he meant. Back home in Nazareth, Jesus continued to grow in wisdom and in stature and in favor with God and man. The Chosen One, an Easter story by Mrs. Jane Willis. This story takes place in Jerusalem, where I was born. I am just a young colt, and my real name is Nebuchadnezzar. My mama just called me Nebo. Mama told me that Nebuchadnezzar was the greatest of all the kings of Babylon, so she gave me that special name. She and I belong to a man named Master Zoin and his wife Sheila. We occupy a very special, nice place in their large stable, along with 5 cows, 2 goats, 6 sheep, and 2 donkeys. My mother's name is Syra, and she is a very fine and beautiful donkey. I am our only colt. She had almost given up on having any babies when I came along. I have always been so special to her, and that's why she chose that very special name for me. Mama has always believed that someday God would choose me to do something very important. She always tells me, "Nebo, with God, all things are possible, and God sees not as man sees, but for man looks at the outward appearance. Oh, but God looks at the heart."
Little ones do
She has taught me to love God with all my heart and to always be kind to others. Mama always knew that God had a special part for me to play in one of his great plans. My fascinating and exceptional experience began suddenly one morning as Mama and I were eating our breakfast. Two strangers appeared in Master Zoin's courtyard. I found out later these two men were followers of Jesus, called disciples. I had never heard of Jesus, but Mama said she had, and she began to quickly tell me what she knew. She said that some people believe he is the Son of God, the accepted Messiah, and that some had seen him perform several miracles. He caused the lame man to walk and raised Lazarus from the dead. There are some who truly believe in him, but some don't, Mama said. You won't believe what these two men explained to Master Zoin. They said, Jesus is coming to Jerusalem today, and that the people want to see him. Behold, your king is coming to you. He will be riding on a donkey's colt through the streets of Jerusalem. You will find the donkey tied there and a colt with her. Untie them and bring them to me. How did these men know where we were? Mama said that God knew exactly what we were where we were, and she believed that we might be a part of his plan. The colt was to be one on which no one had ever sat. Bring that colt to me, and if anyone asks you why you are untying it, just say, the Lord has need of it. It was then that Mama and I followed these men to meet Jesus at the Mount of Olives. After meeting Jesus, Mama said she needed to return to Master Zoin. And she went home. She instructed me to be obedient to Jesus. She said, I've heard he's a good man, and you must do exactly what he says. He needs you. Her last words were, Nebo, I'll find you later among the crowds. You must go now with Jesus. I couldn't believe I had been chosen to help Jesus. Some of the crowd began to throw their cloaks on my back. Jesus climbed up onto my young and sturdy back. He patted my neck and told me I was a fine young colt, and he knew I would carry him wherever he needed to go. I began to think what an honor this was for me. With another hearty pat on my neck, Jesus began to lead me down the mountain and through the streets of the city. People were waving palm branches and even throwing their cloaks into our path. Some were shouting loud hosannas. Some in the crowd appeared to like him very much, but some were not receptive to him. I could hear voices in the crowd asking, "Who is this man?" We had not been long on our way when we approached the temple. Horror and disbelief showed on Jesus' face. As he slid off my back and entered the temple, it seemed all the commotion I was hearing was coming from inside the temple. I spotted Jesus through the door. I saw vendors were buying and selling at tables. And then I saw Jesus overturning the tables of those money changers and the one selling doves. Jesus spoke in a loud voice, "It is written, my house is called a house of prayer, but you are making it a robber's den." He seemed very upset at what was happening, and I was becoming afraid of these noisy commotions. In my wildest dreams, I never thought I would be where I am right now. This will be a day I will never forget. Little did I know that my strange and unexpected experience had just begun. I definitely was beginning to realize that I had been chosen to be a participant in something very special. I knew Jesus would take good care of me because he had become my friend, and I trusted him. The mood of the crowd soon began to take a different turn. I knew I wanted and needed to stay close to Jesus and not get lost in all this crowd. He then began to speak to the crowd, saying, "Love your enemies, do good to them that hate you, bless those that curse you, and pray for those who mistreat you." How could anyone ever mistreat or despise this good and righteous Jesus, I wondered. I couldn't understand all this, but I knew he would never be unkind to me. I heard him say, "If you are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest." He's a kind man, just like Master Zoin. I thought to myself, I sure miss Mama and wish she was here to hear Jesus speak. She would love to hear him. About this time, I heard Jesus speak to his disciples, saying, This is the first day of unleavened bread. One disciple asked, "Where do you want us to go and prepare for us to eat the Passover meal together?" Jesus instructed them to go into the inner city to a certain man, and he would direct them to an upper room in his house, where they would celebrate the Passover meal together. We moved on through the streets to locate the house where they were to make preparations for their meal. I waited outside the house for a long time, but I could see them through the window, talking and eating together, seeming to be enjoying this time of fellowship. I strained my ears to hear what they were saying, and I heard Jesus say, "One of you will betray me this very night." I then heard several of the men begin asking Jesus, "Is it I, Lord?" Betray. That's a word I'd never heard. One of the men came out of the house first and walked quickly away. I heard one of them call the man Judas. It must have been that man, Judas, that Jesus was speaking of betraying him. Then I heard Jesus and his followers singing a hymn, and soon they left the upper room. Jesus came and climbed upon my back, and we began to journey toward a place he called Gethsemane. It was quite a lengthy journey, and darkness was beginning to make it difficult to see. Soon we approached the Garden of Olive Trees. The disciples seemed to be familiar with this area. I found out later that Jesus had brought them here on numerous occasions to pray beneath the old olive trees. I then noticed Jesus began to walk further into the garden alone, probably to kneel and pray. Suddenly, out of nowhere, in total darkness, officers from the chief priests and Pharisees filled the Mount of Olives. Those men carried torches, lanterns, and weapons. I heard Jesus ask, "Whom do you seek?" They responded, "Jesus the Nazarene." "I am he," Jesus replied. It seemed everyone was displeased with my friend Jesus. And as those soldiers approached him, Peter drew his sword and cut off the ear of one of the soldiers. Jesus rebuked Peter, instructing him to put his sword away in his sheath. Jesus immediately restored the soldier's ear. With that, one of the Roman soldiers grabbed Jesus and arrested him, bound him, and carried him off to the high priest to be questioned. I could do nothing to help and protect my friend, Jesus.
We were here
I could not believe what my eyes were seeing and what my ears were hearing. I even heard Jesus tell Peter that he, Peter, would deny him 3 times before the cock crowed that very night. It was hard to believe that in just a matter of minutes, it had all happened just as Jesus said it would. Every minute, I became more and more apprehensive and frightened. Then I heard them say that they were taking Jesus to be tried by Pilate, who was the Roman prosecutor for Judea. When the trial was over, Pilate announced to the crowd that he could find no fault with Jesus. But he said, "You have a custom that I should release someone for you during this Passover. Do you want then that I release the King of the Jews?" "No, no, not him," the crowd shouted loudly. "Not Jesus. Give us Barabbas." Now that man Barabbas, I heard someone in the crowd say, was a thief and robber. The crowd hollered louder, "Crucify him! Crucify him! He says that he is the Son of God." Oh, my heart was so sad and huge tears ran down my face. I was so scared and confused, but I knew I would never leave Jesus, no matter what happened. When they brought Jesus outside the court door, he was wearing a crown of thorns on his head, and around his shoulders hung a purple robe. The crowd got louder. "Away with him! Away with him! Crucify him!" I thought to myself, how can they be so mean to this good man? I must get him on my back and take him away quickly. But the crowd was pushing on him and moving him further away. And he was going further away from me.